What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On NFL Draft live podcast here in Mobile, Alabama. Senior Bowl, day 2 in the books. We got one more day, weather permitting, but we're going to come at you with some players that stood out for some good reasons, maybe some not so good reasons, and we're going to lay it all down with my friends here in the Jaguar Den. From my left, your right, Jarvis Davis, Locked On Sports Atlanta. We got Lauren Cox, Locked On Justin Fields, the Chicago Bears. And we got Gator Boy. Shout out to our guy, Tony Wiggins, who unfortunately couldn't be here in Mobile with us. But we got Brandon Olson, Locked On Gators. I'm David Harrison, Locked On Bucks, Locked On Commanders. If you watched our live yesterday, you saw plenty of the trash that I like to spew, thinking it's knowledge. None of that today. Instead, you're going to hear from these fine gentlemen. Guys, let's start with top performers, but we're looking at the first 2 days. Top performers for the first 2 days here at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to go right in the middle with Locked On Bears, Lauren Cox, just because he gave Brandon Olson the microphone saying, you're going to go first. So that's how we're doing this tonight. Buckle up, everybody. This is what's happening.
We're having a good time here, aren't we? I got to say, I think the guy I want to start with, for me, was the wide receiver from Stanford. I always want to make sure I've got their names correct when I say them here. Wilson, was it Michael Wilson? He was big, fast, strong, like the guy with juice, especially on that roster. Like, to me, this was a wide receiver group that overall, Michael Wilson from Stanford, a wide receiver group overall that we knew would be underwhelming, and we knew, like, there were a couple guys with some hype, but, you know, not really. There was a lot of opportunity for somebody and for multiple people to step up into bigger roles and bigger opportunities. And he's a guy, he's like, what, 6'2", I think, 215 pounds, and just is a step faster than all the other receivers. Like, it's not as much straight line speed. Like, he's got straight line speed, but like fluid in and out of his breaks, doesn't slow down very much when he changes direction. And he's built like a bigger body wide receiver. I mean, those are the kind of traits that a couple of days at practice really make a player like that stand out in front of scouts like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, something I really like seeing the coaches work on with these younger, these college prospects looking to go into the NFL was really how they kind of sit down when they're going into their breaks. And that's something that a lot of people don't really notice in the game flow, but it's something that can prevent injuries and can really help the receiver not just stay healthy, but also get in and out of their breaks a lot faster. So good to see these guys teaching, because really that's what it's all about out here for the coaches on the ground. Not evaluating. We're evaluating. The guys in the stands are evaluating. The fans are obviously evaluating, but the coaches are out here teaching. Jarvis, who do you have as your top performance so far here in Mobile?
Wow. It was a guy that not too many people talking about. His name is Nick Broker, interior offensive lineman out of Ole Miss. When I say the guy, I call him an anchor. I tweeted out an emoji of guys, you know, that stood out yesterday, and he actually stood out today again. Nick Broker, 6'6", a really solid guy, 305-ish around that line, so really lean, and he's a guy you can plug in at that guard position and won't have too many words. He's a guy that I really like how he anchors down when guys try to get in that bull rush, because a lot of defensive linemen are going to try you first. Come off with the bull rush and try to see where you are. He will sit down every time. Yeah. And I'm talking about stalwart. Once he got that lean in, man, got the head out of there, it was just really good sight to see. I actually got a chance to rap with him after practice today, and I was just like, hey, man, you did some good work today. So, yeah, Nick makes some money. Nick Broker makes some money. Yep.
Yeah, another day to make some more, hopefully, for him. I was saying, yeah, good offensive line group here. We talked about the offensive line extensively yesterday, and they continue to impress out here in Mobile. Brandon, who you got?
I got Tyjae Spears, who we've been talking about, I mean, privately for a while now. And Tyjae, I mean, he's great as a pass catcher, as a runner, and the amount of times that he made defenders do push-ups today after scoring touchdowns, like it was impressive. Those dudes' chests are gonna be hurting tomorrow because they had to do so many push-ups. So Tyjae is someone who, coming into Mobile, we were excited to see him, and then he was like, "Hey, guess what? I'm gonna be even better than you anticipated in this skill set or in this situation where he's making himself money and he's impressing myself, everybody here, and a lot of NFL teams."
I wasn't watching the running back super closely. Was he the one that had that breakaway touchdown run where it's just like clean through to the second level and no one had a shot to catch him?
Yeah,
absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah,
great awareness on that play. Hit the hole hard, set up the defender, and then ran right around him, accelerated. Nobody could touch him. And yeah, the American team squad. The defense coaches, every time their defense gives up a score that would be an actual score, even if they were full tackling, at times they do push-ups. And me being who I was in my former career, I'm enthusiastic about physical punishment for not doing your job well. Let's stick with the 2-day theme here. Lauren, since you don't have a microphone in your hand, who's not doing as well as you would like to see them doing?
You know, whenever we come down to the Senior Bowl, there's always this expectation, I think, that the Alabama guys are going to be the ones that, like, just look the part and perform the part. Like, they're at Alabama, right? They should be, like, them and the Georgia guys should just be bigger, faster, stronger than everybody down here. And the guy who really hasn't looked that way is DJ Dale, the defensive lineman. He's like 6'1", 300 pounds. Like, he's not, I didn't need him to be the guy who impresses you right off the bus. It wasn't about the physical traits that I wanted to be impressed by, but like, even in one-on-ones, in those interior pass rush battles that are made to be advantageous for the defense, especially those going one-on-one against the guards who expect to have more help. The tackles sometimes know they're out on an island, and that's a little bit more, translatable to real game situations. But like, those guards are at such a disadvantage, and I just wasn't seeing DJ Dale win consistently enough against good guards like the Mississippi guard that you mentioned. I can't think of his name anymore. Brecker. So there were good guards, but again, this is the Alabama guy. Like, he should be able to beat Ole Miss. I mean, he played Ole Miss. He should be able to beat those guys. He should be able to beat most of the talent. There's not going to be any talent difference between what he's faced and these guys compared to like the smaller school guys who come here. And if they can beat the Alabama guy, you're like, oh wow, well, he's beating some of the best. And when the guys who are supposed to be the best of the best don't look the best of the best, that's not a huge red flag, but it's something that makes you definitely go back and rewatch their tape.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I've seen a lot of Alabama players to cover the Washington Commanders. There's a lot of burgundy in the burgundy. I mean, they're crimson, but you know what I'm saying. And yeah, those guys are very impressive. So you're right. When you see one of those guys not being very impressive, it is a little surprising. But also seeing them get some coaching. The coach came up and kind of placed his hands like, here, I'm going to show you kind of what I want you to do. And the good thing was the player was nodding. You could see the player was conversing. I don't know what he was saying. Obviously, we weren't within earshot, but it looked like the player was receptive to the coaching, and that's really, I think, what these guys are going to take away is not only, okay, yeah, maybe he came in not doing exactly what we wanted, but there was improvement there, and there was reception to the lesson. And
especially, I think, with him, you've got his Alabama teammate, Byron Young, on the defensive line, who's just a little bit bigger and a little bit quicker. And it's like you see those guys side by side, and one clearly stands up more than the other. It just ends up being a little more striking.
Absolutely. Jarvis, who do you think needs to, or who do you think isn't living up to maybe what you expected?
I'm going to have to go with Mr. Ryan Hayes, tackle out of Michigan. He's about 6'6", 305. That's a decent number for a tackle in size, but he plays so much lighter than that. He plays like he's 265 because there were a lot of guys that were able to get up underneath his pass and kind of get him to a point where he looks like he's going to be on his behind before once they get too close to the quarterback. So, but I think. And it just seems like he was just uncomfortable out there and never really. And a lot of times, you kind of try to look at a guy differently. And when he's in this different situation, because in the one-on-ones, he looked out of place. And then even when he got into 11-on-11 and team, he looked out of place. So I think he's one of those guys that he's going to have to kind of figure some things out really quickly, because if not, he's going to be his stock is definitely going to be down.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy that stood out to me as well in day one for not good reasons, right? And again, you want to see him bounce back. But yeah, 2 days of struggles, not good. But he's got a third day. You got the opportunity to come back. And again, there are some behind the scenes things these coaches know if these guys are being receptive, again, studying the tape, doing what they're being told to do for homework. So hopefully behind the scenes, at least, he's doing the things to show them that he can move forward with success. Brandon, who's your guy?
I think for me, it's Tyson Bagent out of Shepherd, the quarterback, where he's not someone that I was like, oh, he's going to come in and light this up. But when you're from a small school like Shepherd and you get the invite to the Senior Bowl, you're like, okay, this guy is clearly someone that the NFL thinks can make it to the NFL. And he shows up, and it's hard playing quarterback in the Senior Bowl because you're showing it's probably the hardest offensive position to play in the Senior Bowl because you're being thrown into a spot where you have no chemistry with these receivers. Like, you don't have experience with them. Tyson's only teammate with him is an offensive lineman. I'm pretty sure Clayton Tune out of Houston is the only quarterback that has one of his receivers. Actually, Max Duggan has Danos. But with Tyson Bagent, there was one play that we were talking about today where he went through all of his progressions. The receiver was in the middle of falling down on a curl, and he just beamed it at him. And I don't know what he was hoping would happen.
It was actually kind of mean, to be honest. Like throwing the ball at this guy while he's going down to the ground is a little rude, actually.
That was kind of all the quarterbacks, though, right? Like because I was sitting around talking to some of my guys, who draft analysts, scouts, and we were just having a conversation about the quarterbacks, and we were literally begging them throw the ball down the field. and one of the guys used to play quarterback. He's like, man, I'll be out here throwing all type of picks because these stats don't count. It's practice. You got to give these guys a good look. So, Brandon, before we got started, we were talking about how the cornerbacks are looking a lot more better, maybe a little bit inflated, right? Because of the bad throws and the bad ball placement and everything. Because there were situations even in one-on-ones where wide receiver had this guy beat. Quarterback just sails the ball 10, 15 yards over his head. I'm just like, what is going on? So I understand why Jim Nagy was a little upset. That's been a turned down opportunity to come to Senior Bowl.
and you saw it with it was Tank Dell that we were talking about off there, where he demolished his man. And then the end of the clip is him going
diving, trying to catch
the
ball's over there somewhere, like in Atlanta. We're in Mobile, Alabama. Like, come on, man.
I mean, impressive arm strength, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't know if we're getting a Josh Allen or even a Kenny Pickett out of this group, but that's the ebbs and flows of the college season. Of course, anything of these guys. So we got some top performers, some guys not doing so great. Of course, at the end of the day, the coaches, the scouts are all going to go back to the tape and either confirm what they've seen or try to reinforce maybe what they've learned about these guys. Hopefully, mostly good for their sakes, but obviously there's going to be some bad. The consistency in the body of work is really the key when you're looking at NFL draft prospects. But the consistency at the Senior Bowl is how you're going to determine if a guy won or lost money, as you said earlier, here in Mobile. So who made the most money between day 1 and day 2 in your minds? We'll start with Brandon.
For me, I really enjoyed how Kenny McIntosh looked. Like, I think that he helped himself a lot. I think Kenny McIntosh helped himself a lot, just showing explosiveness and that dual threat ability, which we saw at Georgia. But Georgia's a place where historically, especially under Kirby Smart, has rotated their running backs frequently, and you never really get to see a ton out of them. Like, we've seen them have stables that are just like Todd Gurley and Nick Chubb, and everybody's all there, but and then you look at Kenny McIntosh, and he's thought of as more of a receiving back. So he was another one where we talked about Tyjae Spears burning everybody. Kenny McIntosh did the same thing. And Kenny McIntosh did something that I liked because he had the sideline, and instead he kind of like cut in a little bit to stiff arm a safety and then outrun him. And it just seemed like one of those things where he was just like, I can do this to you, so I'm going to do this to you. And it was just a little bit impressive from him to do that. And I'm enjoying seeing him get work as a pass protector and as a pass catcher, where that's how you make your money right now at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. Versatility is key in these running backs. We saw a little bit of a resurgence in running backs in the NFL this last season, but to continue that resurgence, if you want to keep that running back growth going in the NFL, you got to be a 3-down back is how we commonly refer to them, but a guy who can do a little bit of everything. Lauren, who's the guy in your mind from day 1 to day 2 that did the best for their prospects?
I think comparatively, I was more impressed by Darnell Wright from Tennessee, the offensive tackle, and I think I was worried about a bias here because we spent the whole first national practice watching Dawand Jones from Ohio State just be the physical freak-sized guy who can move well, and then we get to the American practice, and like in a normal Senior Bowl, Darnell Wright would be the big freak-sized right tackle, and I felt myself like competitively being disappointed in Wright because I'm like, well, we just saw Jones do like what human beings don't seem like people at that size can actually do. But with Jones not at practice, maybe there's a subconscious sort of like not having that comparison there. But to me, it looked like Wright was even better at getting out of his stance quicker, being able to pick up against speed when he was facing it. And he's 6'5", 342 pounds. Like, he is one of the bigger, normally a freak right tackle here, not even the biggest guy at his position, but showing an ability to move well, and especially in team drills, being able to know where his help was going to be on the inside there, so he could overset a little bit wide and know that he's got some opportunities for help on the inside. And I just felt like this was more of what I was expecting from him, and maybe without having Jones still fresh on my brain of exactly what it looks like when someone physically dominates.
Yeah, I mean, Dawand, look, hopefully Dawand Jones good. The report is a concussion kept him out of practice. day 2. Expect it's going to keep him out of practice day 3 and probably the game. I like the air quotes. But it did. I mean, look, there was a lot of attention. I mean, even sometimes he wasn't even taking the rep, and he's just standing there, and everybody's going, look at this human being that I don't want to mess with ever.
He should have just pulled a Jermaine Johnson and just practiced for one day and just walked off the field and hit my agent line. Like, it's just walked off instead of making up stuff. But anyway, yeah, sorry. My bad. I blurt out random stuff sometimes.
Valid statements. Jarvis, who made money for you from day 1 to day 2?
Woo, man, it would have to be D. Winters, linebacker out of TCU. Not that tall of a guy, 5'11", about 220. But one thing I do like about this guy, like, he's really good in space. He's very instinctive linebacker. He believes what he sees. That's what you ask of a linebacker, right? When you talk about guys that, study the game, study the tape, and looking at guys and looking how guys move and everything, and being able to break on the ball. Was even able to pick off a ball in practice, shockingly, given the quarterback play. But anyway, D. Winters, he's a guy that I really feel like he's made some money. Like I said, of course teams are going to knock him for his height, but at the end of the day, if I'm a GM in the NFL, I probably won't be sitting here talking to you guys, but if I'm a GM in the NFL, I want ball players. I want guys who can play ball. I'm not necessarily that big on measurements, you know what I mean? But I like the tape. Believe what I see. He had an excellent game against Michigan, and you just can see the guy is a playmaker. So, yeah, I think teams are going to be paying attention heavily to the 5'11" linebacker out of TCU.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when I first spotted him out here in Mobile, it was for the exact same reason you just described. I was like, that's a small dude, and maybe if he can make it, maybe I could have made it in a different life as well. But then watching him going through, probably not, but going through the reps, I mean, you're right. Like he looks like he belongs on a football field. And let's just be honest, like sometimes there's guys that even have the measurements and they don't look like they belong out there. But all these guys definitely belong out there, whether they come from small schools, big schools. They're all expected to be NFL draft prospects, potential draft picks, UDFAs. Again, no favors being done out here, guys. The Senior Bowl makes their money and advertises off of how many guys get drafted from this event every year. They're not out here just handing opportunities to guys just so they can say they were here. These guys are who the Senior Bowl scouting staff believes will be competing in the National Football League here in the very near future. And you're right. If you're a GM, you wouldn't be here talking to us, but you might be talking to us in about an hour. So we're going to wrap up this episode here. Day 3 is coming here at the Reese's Senior Bowl. Brandon, who are you looking for on day 3? Could be a guy that you just want to see continue shining, or maybe another guy you need to see pick it up.
For me, it's Darius Rush out of South Carolina. He's the guy that I would like to see because corner. So for most, yeah, good job. You should be producing it. So for me, when you look at South Carolina and you're talking about cornerback, most people talk about Cam Smith as the guy that's going to be a first-round pick, but Darius Rush, a shade under 6'2", long arms, and day 1 on Tuesday, he was just great. There was that one clip going around where he runs the route for the receiver, picks off the curl. Today, he kind of came down to earth, but honestly, even if he comes down to earth, the average is still higher than what most people anticipated from him. Like, when I saw him on the roster, I was just like, I haven't seen him yet, but I guess I will. And so now, I mean, that length, that size, that's just something that you like to see from a corner, and especially now where we're going into an NFL where length at corner is increasingly important. You look at guys like Sauce Gardner coming out, and it's like, you can't find that. Tariq Woolen, you can't teach those things.
You can't teach size, man.
When you can find that in Darius Rush, that's something that's incredibly important. And when you show flashes like that, an NFL team is going to see that and say, maybe I can make you do that more consistently, and we can get a real gem on our hand here.
Absolutely. Jarvis, who are you looking for in day 3?
Has to be Julius Brent, man. A corner out of Kansas State. 6'3", 200 pounds, long, lengthy. Yesterday had an absolute day. I gave him a dog emoji on Twitter when I was tweeting out my guys.
That's big. That's real big.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's as high as you can get, man. You get the dog emoji is going down, but kind of fell off a little bit today. I was actually talking to some scouts, And they were like, he may be a little susceptible to the playing man coverage. And, in the NFL, you got to be able to do that, at least to the point where they're not calling your name like, God, dog it, such and such. You don't want to be the fill in the blank right there. So, but I do think that to show that consistency, to show what I saw in him yesterday was real, need to kind of level off a little bit and not necessarily kind of fall off in one-on-ones against other wide receivers. Now, granted, wide receiver was a good wide receiver, but you got to be able. You can't get lost in man coverage. That's not good at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, who are you looking at? And is it possible that they will be joining the legendary quarterback Justin Fields in the near future?
This one probably not based on where his draft range is, but the guy I want to see more from is Cody Mauch, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State. Played left tackle there throughout his college career. Day one, exclusively at left guard as far as I could tell. I didn't watch I didn't have my eyes locked on him the whole game, but pretty much every rep I saw was left guard. Today, Wednesday? Is today Wednesday? The days down here blend together. He started at left guard, then they moved him over to right guard. They had him back at left tackle, and then he was snapping, and he was at center for quite a few reps in some 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 situations, or 9-on-7. And I saw a couple of snaps hit the deck that, under center that just were fumbled there because he never snapped in college. He told me after practice on Tuesday, days of the week, that he's been practicing snapping on his own for a while, but the coaching staff down here hadn't explicitly told him, hey, tomorrow we're going to play at center. He just said, I'm going to be ready for wherever they want to play me. And today, 4 positions on the offensive line he practiced at across different reps. He was really good at left tackle or left guard yesterday. Still pretty good at those spots, but they're all so new to him. I just want to see more of that at all those positions, and that can really cement him as that, late first-round pick that would be out of the Bears' range unless they do some wild trading down.
Yeah, I'm sure Justin would love to have him, though. I mean, there's a reason that these coaches move guys around sometimes. Sometimes it's because you're struggling. We saw a little bit of that on day one. But sometimes it's because you came out and you balled out and said, okay, well, let's see just how much you have and how much we can challenge you and how much we can really tap into. So it's good to see those coaches doing that. And, again, seeing those players either step up or learn from them. And then once they take those lessons, maybe come back the next day and show even better. So plenty more to see here in Mobile as we get into day 3 and we wrap up the festivities here. But great job, guys, identifying some good prospects and some guys that need to do some work and some guys who are already putting in work. And Jarvis Davis, Locked On Sports Atlanta. Lauren Cox, Locked On Bears. Brandon Olson. I almost had a random last name. I don't even know why. Brandon Olson, Locked On Gators. Doing great work. Make sure you check them out. I'm David Harrison, Locked On Bucks, Locked On Commanders, doing adequate work. That's why I have 2 co-hosts that carry me through the rest of the season. This is Locked On NFL Draft. Don't worry, I will not be your host very much longer on this feed. Behind the camera, Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, your Tuesday host of Locked On NFL, along with Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. So if you can't catch it, if you got a favorite team, we've got you covered here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So thank you for joining this live. Make sure you come back for more here on Locked On NFL Draft, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
See you tomorrow.